Okay, awesome. So each time we do this, we've kind of been changing the format, just trying to see what works best and find something that sticks. So today, we just have a group that will have one panel, but we're gonna have two different discussions. So the first discussion is the urgent need, bridging the gap from street to service. So our panelists are Trevor with TROSA. We've got Cynthia Harris, USA Veterans Help, and then Kristen and Ellecia from the VA Homeless Program. So what I would like to do, the first question is, could you briefly describe how your organization identifies and encounters veterans in immediate crisis? How does your entry point differ from others on the panel? So I'm just gonna pick someone. Kristen, would you like to go first?
Sure, of course. So with the VA homeless program, we do have a bunch of different point of contacts to reach us. I'll kind of go through each of those and what that looks like. I would say the number one thing that we have a homeless program walk-in clinic that the homeless veterans can walk into. It's located at the Durham VA Medical Center on the first floor. Those hours are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I could have just said Monday through Friday. I don't know why I said every single day out loud, but from 1:30 to 4. There are always staff there to see those walk-ins. And we also have a social worker answering any calls. That is another way you can call the homeless line directly. I can put that in the chat, or if Ellecia is still on, I can't see her right now. If Ellecia could put that number in the chat for everyone if they need it. A veteran can also come in because we know a lot of times a big barrier is transportation. Another point of contact is we do have a homeless call center. It's a national call center line that the veterans can call into. Someone is there. It's not a VA person answering the calls. It's a call center person. And basically what they do is they kind of take the message and then they pass it on to us. We have an in-reach social worker who answers all of those consults. The in-reach social worker also, another point of contact if the veterans are inpatient, like if they're in the hospital or if they come to a primary care appointment, there a consult can be put in for the homeless program, and he also responds to those. So I would say those are kind of the 3 to 4 immediate ways that the veterans can get care for homelessness at the VA. Ellecia, if you want to add anything that I forgot.
Nope. Okay. Thank you, Kristen.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think she's trying to see something.
Oh. Ellecia, did you want to add something? No. Okay, perfect.
Can I ask if the services that you described at the Durham VA Medical Center are available at the new Garner VA Medical Center, or if there are plans to offer them in Garner?
So as of right now, they're not in Garner. I will say we do have some homeless staff that are located at Garner, but there is not a walk-in clinic out there yet. I forgot to mention though, we do have a Greenville location, and they do have a walk-in clinic at the Greenville location, but Garner not yet, just because it's so brand new. It could be in the works, but right now we don't have any update as to when. So now the best way would be come to Durham VA, or like I said, if transportation is the issue, like if they are in Garner or one of the rural surrounding 26 counties that we cover, to just call that number Ellecia put in the chat, and that would be the best way.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Cynthia, I'd like to turn it over to you. If anyone needs me to repeat the question, please let me know. But if you would like to go next.
Okay. We get our referrals from the Durham VA. So everyone that comes to us has to be vetted through the VA. A lot of times we do get phone calls from veterans, interest in our services, and we'll direct them to the Durham VA. Once the VA sends us a list, they may send us maybe 4 or 5 veterans on a waiting list at a time. We'll go through that. When we have a vacancy, we'll actually call the veterans and see if they're still homeless or interested in housing. We'll tell them a little about the program and get a little information from them over the phone. And then we'll meet with them in person before we make our decision, who to bring in. But everything has to go, all the referrals come from the Durham VA.
And Cynthia, USA Veterans Help provides temporary housing, is that correct?
Yes, it is. We have 4 houses and we put 3 veterans to a house.
Thank
and
you.
they normally can stay here about 90 days. Some may stay a little less. It depends on how quickly they get into housing. And then, of course, there's some that have a lot of housing barriers, which means they may have to stay a little bit longer. But yes, they definitely have their own room, and it's only 3 veterans to a house.
Question. Thank you, Cynthia. Yes.
Do we have questions?
Yes, go ahead. Yes, if you have a question, please. This is very free-flowing conversation.
Okay.
Jump in.
Hi, Cynthia. This is Katrina, Veterans Bridge Home. So I was wondering, so you said that you only receive referrals from the VA. So what if there's a veteran that comes to our organization needing some housing assistance, and so you don't accept any referrals from other organizations? We have to send them back to the VA so that they can be referred through the VA, correct?
That is correct.
We get
our contract is with the Durham VA. So yes. So
yeah.
just if you have a veteran, we'll gladly work with them, but just make sure that they're getting their health care and all that stuff through the Durham VA. They're going through their homeless program as well.
Okay.
And just to piggyback off that, because I'm kind of over the contracting. So yes, they have a specific contract with us. So there are eligibility requirements, and that's kind of why we require a VA social worker. We have a social worker that works particularly with USA Veterans Help. His name's Mark Ford. And so basically he will kind of run a homes, check that they're eligible for health care. So that's kind of why. So yes, if you guys have people, definitely reach out to either USA Veterans Help or the VA. If you reach out to USA Veterans Help first, like Miss Harris, she can just let us know and let Mr. Ford know, and then we can kind of check the eligibility and get that veteran kind of in the process for transitional housing over there.
Awesome. Thank you.
You'll be amazed at how many veterans come through the program.
Okay.
So yeah, if you send them this way, they will get to Mr. Ford, and he'll do what he needs to do.
Thank you. And Cynthia, Carla Jackson has a question for you also.
Sure.
Hey, Miss Cynthia, I have
Hi.
a question. So if a veteran has been through your program one time, are they eligible to come back through?
Most of the time they are.
Okay.
It depends on, it just depends on how they left, but it's very rare that they're not able to come back through our program. As
Okay.
long as they're homeless,
Okay. Thank you.
Great question.
And I have a question
Yes.
for Cynthia and the VA. So these veterans that come through your program or your housing, it seems to be a transitional type housing. Are they prioritized for HUD vouchers since you have a contract with the VA?
That question, I don't know. Quite a few of them do get HUD vouchers, and it may take a while. Sometimes they don't get them until after they leave our program, but they are referred for HUD vouchers.
Yeah, and to just piggyback off that, so they're not necessarily prioritized to get a voucher because they're in USA Veterans Help. There does have to be some type of intervention in place when they go to transitional housing, whether that be, SSVF, HUD-VASH, some type of housing is kind of in place, but not necessarily HUD-VASH, because there are certain qualifications that the veteran has to fall under to get a HUD-VASH voucher. And just because they're in transitional housing doesn't necessarily mean that they'll be eligible for the voucher. And they may even self-resolve with the help of USA Veterans Help before they need the voucher.
And I can answer. I'm going to answer Jill. I'm going to answer your question. We don't have any female veterans. We only have men veterans. I wish we did, and I wish there was a program for the female veterans. Now, to go back on what Kristen just said, let's say we get a veteran here and he does not have a voucher. His income is fairly low. I work really, really hard with trying to get him into a subsidized unit here in Durham. It may be a senior place, but I look around for places that are subsidized so they can work with the person's income. And I've even been lucky enough to have some landlords to actually ask me, what do you think I should charge them for rent? And I'll tell them and I'll try to be fair about it. But those landlords, sometimes they'll go with what I say to charge that person for rent. And I'll look at their income and all, and sometimes it works out.
A question for Kristen.
Yeah,
In
do you mind
regards-
if I give
yeah, yeah.
Trevor,
Yeah.
one more second, and then we'll come back. But Trevor, if you could jump in and describe how TROSA identifies and encounters veterans, and then, you know, how's your entry point? What's that look like?
Sure, and this may bring more questions than answers. There's a few ways folks can reach us. I mean, the easiest is somebody, you know, picks up the phone and calls us. We often have folks show up at our gate. We have someone available 24/7 that can help a client who shows up at our gate, or I should say a potential client. But a lot of folks find us through either detox facilities, like in Durham, we have good relationships with RI, ARCA, if we're heading out towards the Winston-Salem area. As well, a lot of our clients are coming from a justice involvement type of background. So it may be a probation officer, parole officer, and we're heavily involved in the prison system in North Carolina as far as folks being able to reach us. There's toll-free numbers where folks can call us there. In more recent history, we're available in most of the tablet systems that are in the jails and prisons. We've been working hard on that the last couple of years. We don't do what I would call like a traditional referral. We do ultimately need to speak with the client or someone who can kind of play middle person between the client and us, but they have to make that decision to come into our program. I say apply for a lot of clients. It is 20-minute phone call and you're in the door if you're ready that day and you want help. For other folks, if there's a long background of maybe mental health issues, those kind of things, we may need to do some assessments leading up to that. And that's really where your case managers for whatever organization it might be can really come into play to try and do a little bit of that legwork for the person who maybe isn't in a position to do it for themselves in that moment.
Thank you, Trevor. Before I go into another, go ahead, Katrina.
Well, I don't know if you were gonna get to this, but I was gonna ask about the state of the HUD-VASH voucher situation. Over half of the veterans that we receive are needing some type of housing support, whether that be financial assistance to pay past due rent or utilities, or they're literally homeless on the streets. And we partner closely with the VA in regards to sending that veteran to the homeless program if they haven't been connected to a social worker at the VA. And a lot of them have told us that they have gone to the VA and were told that there were no vouchers available, or the voucher system is closed. So I was just wondering, just so I can hear it directly from the homeless program folks, are you all issuing HUD-VASH vouchers? Has the application process opened up again, or how is that working?
Hey, this is Ellecia. This is truly a Wake County Housing Authority question.
Okay.
The answer doesn't lie within the VA. However, what I can share is there are no vouchers. There is no capacity. The way that we free up vouchers is Wake County gets some more vouchers.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't heard of that occurring. The way we get more vouchers is a veteran maxes out of the income and returns a voucher, or unfortunately a veteran passing. We don't have capacity. So even though we're getting the referrals from you all, we screen them, we assess them, and we educate them on where the vouchers are located. And right now, the vouchers are not located anywhere in Wake County nor Durham. We are having to educate veterans on where the vouchers are right now. As of today, there's 2 in Chatham, and then we have a few out in Pitt County, I'm sorry. So we can't absorb any referrals because Housing Authority simply doesn't have capacity.
Thank you for that information. How would an organization like Veterans Bridge Home be able to get that veteran connected to that information? Like instead of them going to the VA, like just send them straight to the VA so that they can get that information as to where the vouchers are located so that they can make the determination as to if they want to relocate to that area so that they can get a voucher. Like you said, there's one voucher in Pitt County. So we're talking to a veteran who is in Wake County. We know that there's a voucher in Pitt County. How could we get that veteran connected to get that voucher if they're willing to relocate to Pitt County?
Yeah, so I would say have them the walk-in clinic that I mentioned earlier, have them present there, or any of the four kind of like that I said, the call center, calling homeless program directly, the number she put in the chat, or the walk-in clinic, getting them in contact with the social worker, because basically what we do for HUD Bash is there's a screening and different things we have to do on our side as the social worker to kind of see, okay, well, what else would they be appropriate for other than HUD Bash? Because we are, even though the vouchers are limited, we are still referring them to a bunch of other resources as much as that's available. So definitely just getting them in contact with the VA social worker, either through calling the homeless program, presenting to the walk-in clinic, or calling the call center.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for answering those questions. I appreciate the clarity. Yes, Troy.
Do we have time for?
Yes. Oh yeah, you're good. Go ahead.
Oh, perfect. So again, Troy Hirschberg with the Housing Finance Agency. And I wanted to ask to kind of follow up on the topic we're talking about, a question that I get asked. One of the things that our agency does is we're the allocating agency for the low income housing tax credit at the federal level. And we will have developers that either have their own property management teams or they hire the property management team when they are building housing that's affordable for particular levels of the median income. We can't do things specifically within this program, such as we want to have an all veteran property, but there are plenty of veterans that will fall within those median income ranges. And I often get asked the question, with all of that background, that how do we go about adding another layer of affordability for folks that do fit within these income requirements and are veterans or active duty? Is there a way for us to contact, like there's a point of contact or a level of contact across the state to find out how are we able to say, hey, there are this many vouchers available in the county that we're building in. And when we start to lease up, we can confidently say that when someone sits down in front of us and meets all these criteria, that we can extend a housing voucher towards them to make it even more affordable for them to stay at one of these properties.
So I would say, so depending where the properties are going to be, reaching out to the local housing authority, honestly, they're the ones that kind of dictate how many vouchers, like Ellecia was saying earlier with Wake County, we're waiting on them. They have to basically reapply for more vouchers for their county. And so depending where your property is going to be, if it's going to be Durham County, Wake County, reaching out to that appropriate housing authority. You could reach out to VA. We can give you a number of what we currently have, but that might not be the projection that you need because we don't always know how many that they're going to apply for. They can only do it certain times, just like everything else with the government. There's always a time frame as to when they can apply. So they would probably have a more accurate number and outlook of that than the VA would have.
Okay. And keeping in mind, this is future planning, programmatic level. This isn't the person sitting in front of us right this minute. They're going to be sitting in front of us in 2 years once the property is complete and built. So I completely understand there, you can't say there's going to be 12, there's going to be 100.
Right.
But is there a current like 2026 like website or just one phone number or so that when I do get asked this question, I can say, hey, thank you for considering this segment of the population within your future tenants. And let's go together and let's make this phone call because you're in Ashe County or you're in Wake County, whatever it is.
We can get you a point of contact. What county would it be?
It would be all 100 counties.
Oh,
Because we operate across the state for this
gotcha.
particular program, and many of our other programs as well. But for this specific question, it's one that every single year, several times a year, someone will thoughtfully bring up because they have a tie to the veteran community in some fashion. So in an effort to get ahead of those questions as they keep reoccurring, that's where my thought process is.
Gotcha. Yeah. Ellecia, can you think of anyone that would kind of be an overall point of contact for everyone? Because we only cover 26 of those counties. So
Of
I don't,
course.
yeah. Do you know, Ellecia?
I do. I'll drop it. So
Okay.
the HUD has a HUD field office. It's out of Greensboro, North Carolina. So communicating that way, and then they can disseminate because the HUD field office has the timelines on when vouchers are going to be offered again, and they know the landscape of what housing authority has excess amount of vouchers and which counties need to move vouchers. I say that because at one point during last year, one of our housing authorities, they had vouchers in excess. So we were in conversations with the field office on polling the PHAs across the state to see who needed more. Unfortunately, Wake did not express interest in moving vouchers to them. Another housing authority stepped up and agreed to take on this other county's vouchers. So I will put in the chat here my contact at the HUD field office.
Thank you for providing someone specific there. I know HUD has had a number of turnovers, for lack of a better word there, in the recent years. So thank you for somebody who is physically there in Greensboro and is the right person to appropriately ask that question to. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Okay, let's continue on with some of our questions for our panelists. So specifically, who are your services available to? So do you have certain discharge statuses that you will or will not work with? Is there a certain level of incomes, and then residency? And then, just someone else had asked this, like, what is your exact first step that a veteran or the provider must take to initiate your services? So if you've already touched on that, you don't have to answer it again. But this is just kind of a combined question. So I'm going to throw this over to Trevor.
Cool. I may get in the weeds a little bit here. For those of us who aren't maybe as familiar with our program or haven't been in a number of years, we've evolved quite a bit, in particularly the last 5 to 10 years. So I think what makes us unique is that we can help veterans who are not service connected. It's actually one of the things I like about my position. So a lot of folks will come to us because they don't have services that they can get currently with the VA, but we can provide those services for them. So while we don't do bed placements at any given time, I have 200 open beds in Durham. I likely have 120 open beds in the Triad. That's for all genders. As a multi-gender facility. I would say, on average, about half of the veterans we serve at any given time aren't service connected, but are by the time they complete the program. So if I can have somebody who's currently living on the street, struggling with drug and alcohol addiction, behavioral health that's going on, and they don't have the means or the capacity to even work with a VSO at this time to get there, right? We're worried about Maslow's hierarchy of needs right now. That's down the road. I can get them in the door, get them stabilized, and then we can start working with the VSOs in Durham County to try and get somebody's discharge status upgraded if we can. And then we can start linking them with maybe the VA GPD program. When folks complete our program, we have up to a year of transitional housing available to them at low cost. After that year, then we can work with the homeless program at the Durham VA to say, hey, is this person, do they qualify for any sort of housing voucher, any assistance, or even just, networking, trying to find housing, specifically for veterans if we can. I don't know if that answered all your questions, but.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Cynthia, did you want to jump in on this one?
Yes. As far as income limits go, we don't have any income limits. We've had veterans that come with no income at all. Then we've have some that have a good amount of income. As far as discharge statuses, it's got to be something really, really horrible for us not to be able to take them back. Once we do get them in our program, if they don't have income, we'll try to make sure they get linked up to veteran services so that they can see what they're eligible for. We'll get them linked up to employment programs. We will look for them housing through landlords that have their own Section 8 subsidized program. We'll try to look for things like that. But basically, wherever they are, we try to work with them to get the things that they need when it comes to our program.
Thank you. So I'm going to go off script a little here for a second. Does everyone understand the difference between GPD, grant per diem, and HUD and vouchers?
Nope.
No. So, Kristen or Ellecia, do you mind just kind of giving a quick overview of the two differences in those programs?
Yeah, of course. So grant per diem basically is transitional housing. So there is a grant, which if anyone's interested, there's a grant cycle open right now, and I might say a spiel later for everybody. But basically there is a grant that you apply for through our GPD national office. Basically, you submit a proposal of the housing that you could provide or the services that you could provide, basically to assist the VA with the same goal of getting veterans into permanent supportive housing. The most popular GPD is called per diem only, and that is basically when a provider has beds, a place for a veteran to stay. So TROSA is actually a GPD per diem only, but they fall under clinical treatment. There's different models under each one because they're a clinical treatment program for SUD, but they do have those the places where the veteran can stay and live while they're homeless and obviously getting their clinical treatment. So a lot of times we're partnering with community partners. One of our biggest ones, they're no longer a GPD anymore, but a lot of people may be familiar with Maple Court. They were through Volunteers of America. They were a GPD with us. And so they kind of had those 24 units. So there is a case management component and expectation that the VA has that you're helping the veterans with their case management. There is a social worker who's attached to the GPDs. That's me. There's only one of me and a lot of veterans and a lot of sites. So it's kind of like you're assisting me. I'm kind of the middle woman between the veteran and the community provider. There is a per diem rate. So that's where the grant per diem comes in. I do pay them a per diem rate monthly. Usually if it's the per diem only, you get paid a monthly stipend per veteran per day. And that's basically to help your business stay up and running, whether it be the cost for the living, the rent that you're paying, the electricity, if you have internet there, and then the cost to like keep it going as far as the case management. If you have staff on site that are like helping with the case management, which we highly recommend for a GPD, that's what that per diem is for, and it gets paid out monthly. So that's kind of an overview of transitional housing. HUD-VASH is a completely separate program. It's a voucher program. It's a partnership with the local housing authorities. It's similar to Section 8. I'm sure most of you are familiar with Section 8, where they get a voucher. The veteran will receive a voucher. And basically, the housing authority for that county will pay a portion of the rent, and the veteran will pay a portion of the rent. The veteran's portion is usually around 30% of their income. So that way the veteran can afford to stay. So we know rent prices are just going up and up and up. So the affordability is becoming really hard for these veterans. We've actually seen a lot of, it's our aging population, the ones that are on very limited income. They can't really increase their income because they can't work. And so that's kind of how HUD-VASH works. And with HUD-VASH also, the big difference between that and Section 8 is that there's a HUD-VASH social worker involved. involved. So of course we're a housing first model, but there are treatment plans that we create, and there's other goals that we're working on. Of course, housing is going to be the number one goal, but then there's other things. We'll be working on substance use, mental health, getting them employment, getting them service connected, helping them with education, whatever it may be, getting them linked with food resources. We're doing all of these case management things while they have that voucher in place.
Thank you, Kristen. And the reason I just wanted to back up on that topic was, so with USA Veterans Health and TROSA and GPD program, our focus for this meeting was about the grants per diem. In the past, we've done a lot of conversations around the vouchers and the more permanent housing solutions. So I wanted to make sure that we are looking at everything that, just so we can learn all of it. Okay, so the next question, we have a few more minutes and then we're going to actually hop into more of a group discussion. So the next question under this category, so panelists, from your perspective, what is the most critical missing link in the Triangle area for a veteran who is currently unsheltered and seeking immediate relief? When you're ready, if you would like to go first, go for it. Trevor, you came off mute.
As simple as this sounds, transportation. Because I can't tell you how many times, whether I'm working with a homeless veteran or unhoused veteran or someone who's not, it's how do I get them to our program? How do I get that person? Maybe they're not located in Durham County. How does that person now get to a detox facility in their county? How do they get to their local walk-in clinic with the VA? It is more times than not, transportation seems to be the biggest barrier to resources that are available to that person. The resources are there. It's getting the person to those resources, or how do you bring those resources to the individual? And there's limitations there to all of us in this room. I understand, but yeah, transportation for sure.
Yeah,
go ahead. Sorry, okay. Kristen.
I was gonna say I agree. I have a few things, but I do agree with the transportation. We actually had a really good program during COVID. It was like a partnership with rideshare. And basically we could call and we could set it up for the veteran, and it was like an Uber or a Lyft that would come and take them or to wherever they needed to go. And I say that was the best program that we had. It was so great. I would love if we could get it back, because that's a huge issue with homeless veterans. And then, like I had mentioned earlier, the population is aging. So even if we do try to explain the bus route to them, they have cognitive issues. They may not be able to walk to their closest bus stop. So yes, the buses are an option, but that ride share was so much, it could just go, I could say pick them up at the McDonald's, and they would pick them up at the McDonald's and then take them to wherever. It was so nice. So definitely that. I would say, as far as housing, I would say landlords that are willing to take veterans that have, past evictions, criminal records, being more lenient. Even a lot of the apartment complexes, they're not lenient. They're not approving people because they have these past things. And it could be even like years and years ago that they got the charge, but depending on the charge, they're getting a denial. So we definitely have a lack of private landlords that will be willing to kind of overlook the background. So that is definitely a need, especially Durham and Wake counties, for sure. As far as housing, I'd say that's kind of a big thing for us.
And I think even like landlords who are willing to take things on a case by case basis. I mean, my dad was self-medicating and was arrested multiple times, but to his core, he was a good person. So I think sometimes even getting all of the people working together to advocate for that person is also.
I agree. Yeah. Cause there's sometimes with like the private landlords, like as your social work, cause I used to be a HUD bash case manager prior to GPD liaison, you kind of vouch for them. You just say, look, he's a good guy. If he acts up, I'll get him. I'll tell him, like, get him straight. And so a lot of times, like, they'll take your word. And the thing is, as the social worker, you're very involved. So if they do start acting up, you just have a conversation like, look, you're going to lose your housing. And you know how hard this was to get. And a lot of times that reality checks them. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes people still lose their housing, but it does work to have that rapport. And then you have that relationship with the landlord, and they trust you because you kind of manage that, and the relationship keeps building. So
thank you. And so
I got one.
Yep,
yes.
Please share.
I do agree with to me, everything everybody said was great, and it is so true. About the transportation, the rental barriers that people have, landlords that are willing to give a second chance. That would be so helpful. And we do have some out here that do second chances. I would love to see it where we have some veterans that have a good amount of money, but someone to actually help them manage their money. I mean, can't make them get a payee. There was time years ago they had to get payees sometimes, but now it's really hard to get them payees if they don't want one. A lot of our veterans need someone to actually help them manage their monies. Then they wouldn't be homeless as much, or at least their bills would be paid and they wouldn't have evictions on them. Another one is, seriously, once someone leaves our program, they have to have good case management. Kristen there hit on it, but it is so true. If they don't have that follow-up case management for some of our clients, they're not going to maintain housing. They'll be there for a couple of months, and they may be in there cutting up. And if nobody is going in there to check on them, then they're going to end up with no place to stay. And it's just like you're going from this apartment to a transitional program, then you get back in another apartment and stay there maybe 5 or 6 months, then you're back out again. It's just not working. We've got to have good follow-up case management, and you've got to have a relationship with that client where they respect you, where you respect them, and where you've got a relationship with that landlord, a landlord that will call you and tell you when things are going bad. So you'll know what you've got to do. And you got to know your Durham community. Well, I'm going to say Durham because we're in Durham. You got to know your community because you got to know where the resources are. There are times when you can't get money from VOA or from the VA, but there's some money out here, but you got to know where to go to get it and how. If you work in a nonprofit, you know how to dig. So, so those are some of my thoughts.
What Cynthia was saying, that offering incentives for the landlords as well, and not always monetary, but just saying that if you're an organization, you're receiving funding or you have funding to be able to pay that client's rent for a few months, you can build that rapport with that landlord and say, well, look, we're doing case management, and we're also going to be paying this veteran's rent for the next 3 to 6 months while we're helping them budget their money, helping them maintain employment, helping them in all these other areas. So yeah, it goes hand in hand as well. And sometimes those landlords, based off my experience working with landlords, that they're more willing to work with that veteran or that client if you're offering that type of assistance for that veteran. So yeah, offering some incentives too, say like, we're going to be with them, we're going to be following up with them, we're going to be making sure we're paying them their rent for the next couple of months. They'll be happy with that. They'll be happy, like, okay, the rent's going to get paid. They'll trust you that you're going to be following up with that client.
Thank you.
And also letting the landlords know. I mean, Katrina, that was really good because you're right. But I've had cases where I've had to let the landlord know, hey, I went into their home today. Their home looked really nice. I let the landlord know that I've been over there. And also, I let my veterans know, or any of my clients know, I am there for you. If something goes wrong, you need to tell me, because if something's not working with your apartment, let's say something's broke down and the landlord's not fixing it, I need to know. So I'm going to be advocating for my veteran, but I'm also going to be advocating for my landlords. Like you said, we got to work hand in hand with it. You got to build that relationship. And it is good if the landlords do know that you're actually going out there. So that's why occasionally when I did aftercare case management, I would let them know what I see when I went out there. If it was good, or if I go out there and something needs to be repaired, I'll let them know it needs to be repaired. And, I'll go check on it.
Working.
Yes. Oh, yes.
I just had a quick question on this topic. In the past, folks like the Coalition to End Homelessness have done pilot programs to financially incentivize landlords to alleviate their concerns and their worries, whether it was, oh, I feel like we've had folks in similar states of mind and they destroyed the place, or whatever it was. So and as an added layer, does anybody know if there is still the financial aspect of this outside of the personal and the physical aspect that Cynthia is talking about?
Wake County through the Landlord Engagement Unit provides economic incentives to landlords to work with. And it's been hugely successful. We've built out a huge portfolio of landlord partners who are depositing.
Okay.
The program itself is not specifically veteran focused, but it feeds into the work that Siobhan and her team do. So it's we provide incentives at lease signing and lease renewal. We also provide vacancy and damage payments. And many of the folks who reside in those units, they're a recipient of one of our permanent supportive housing vouchers. So they're also getting that wraparound supportive services and case management. So it's on all basis.
Yeah, you can find more information about that. If you just Google Wake County Veteran Services, our website will come up. There'll be a tab where you can hit House a Veteran. And then from there, it'll take you to the links for the landlord engagement.
And Jenny Ann just put, we'll share all of the information in the chat, but she just put the contact even in there from the LEU.
Yeah, the LEU is Jenny Ann oversees that unit within our department, and Trace Delivery is amazing. And actually, I have a question for NCHFA. So one thing that we do, so Wake County, we do a lot of work to finance the creation of new affordable housing. And one of the things that we've been doing is trying to incentivize through our application process, the creation of like second chance policies and tenant selection plans. Has the state, has the agency ever considered kind of advocating for or including a requirement even? Do we have legal authority to do that, to really encourage landlords, property owners, property managers to incorporate these second chance policies? Because I agree that it's a huge barrier.
So second chance in what way? Is this folks that already have like an eviction or?
An eviction or a criminal record, land history.
Gotcha.
I think there are a lot of different ways that you can create a tenant selection plan that, accommodates second chances, but really looking to lower the barriers to being able to be housed.
I understand.
Yeah.
I'll say in general, I don't think across the state, there's a uniform measure. In a lot of different ways, Wake County is leading the front on a lot of different topics related to housing, which is very appreciated. Because there's a lot of other counties that are looking to, if you don't have to reinvent the wheel, just try to replicate as best they can and as they're able to for whatever the topic is. For our agency specifically, we have the rules and valuations to be able to apply for and receive and then continue into the program. But I don't think that second chances are one of those in there, but I would be very curious to see how that could be incorporated because it's already working, obviously at a county level. So I don't know why it wouldn't be able to work at a state level.
Like your application maybe gets a couple extra points because you have something like that.
Exactly it. And I'm personally toying with the idea of making it a requirement of receiving our funds because we're investing more and more dollars into these projects. It's more expensive. But we need to look at our legal authorities to do that. But if the agency is thinking about exploring this, we'd love to collaborate with you and see how that could happen.
Let me know how we might be able to help. Sometimes the simplest solution is not to incorporate and take something over and apply it in because it's already being applied.
Right.
The only catch is the county level of funding stack within penciling out all those numbers. Because if it is, then that requirement's already there.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
there's no need to duplicate it at any other level, whether it's ours or another one.
For sure.
But not every county may have the guidance and the foresight to be able to say, hey, we understand that slip up A, B, or C, or D has happened. We understand you didn't mean for that to happen. You don't want it to repeat. You deserve to be able to live in a place that's affordable. So let's see how we can move forward with that. I love that idea.
The problem we see, Brooke, is cash on hand for immediate needs. Like if find a veteran that's homeless, we want to put them in a hotel overnight, or that could be pretty costly. And just to have the cash on hand to be able to do something like that, or just feed them, pay electric bill, whatever it is to help them get out of their issue immediately. That's a problem. Like our chapter and most chapters, we can only immediately, the commander has authority to give $250 a month without having to ask the entire membership. So I mean, we can't. There's not so much that we can do.
What are, to our panelists, what are you seeing that people are doing until they can get into, the VA program or get into TROSA? Like, where are they going in the meantime? Are they in hotels? Are they couch surfing or in their cars? Like, what are you seeing?
We're seeing a lot of couch surfing.
Yep.
Yeah, and if they have a family, we'll put them. If we have space, we'll put them in a house. If not, then a hotel or something like that.
Yeah, that does get
Very much so.
There's a variety of situations going on.
and you don't know how long it's gonna take.
No.
So hotel, I mean, that's, yeah, it's hard.
And a lot of times you can work with, the hotel will work with you or find one that will work with you. But still, the immediate cash on hand is a big problem.
Well, that was kind of one of my, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, Trevor, it's all you.
It's a mix for us. I think one of the barriers, especially when you're thinking of STD treatment, on top of everything else that individual might need, is like a communication thing where, somebody may be in this vulnerable moment where they're looking for help right now. And if there's some follow-up that has to happen, it's how do I contact you again? Or how can you contact us again? Like right this moment, you might have a phone in your hand. You might not have access to that tomorrow, or you may only be in this mind frame for the next 2 hours, right? Where you really want help until you kind of jump into your next run. And I don't have a good solution for that. I mean, that's something we struggle with, pretty regularly is, well, where are they now? Can we go to them, or who can we contact to reach this person once they're off the phone with us, so they're not in front of us anymore? It's a kind of constant struggle.
That was one of our questions with this group discussion, was talking about gaps. So beyond money, obviously, because we all need that. But, that's a huge gap. And I know Allie works with our financial assistance program, and that happens to her all the time. They'll call, and in that moment, if she's not able to answer the phone, the struggle of getting back in touch with them is real. I mean, do people have suggestions other than trying to get to them immediately? Is there any other ways to work around that? Harassment, continuously calling?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard.
I will say over at the VA, sometimes like when we have literally homeless veterans, and we know they may be like at the shelters, our outreach team will reach out to the shelter staff particularly to say, hey, is this veteran here? We're trying to reach these veterans. We also have, like I said, like we have an outreach team that they go out to the shelters in different places. We have a partnership with like Acorns and different other people who are going out and doing kind of on the streets looking for the veterans. So that is one way. But yeah, if they don't have a phone, that can be a huge barrier. That was actually another thing we had during COVID too. We had free cell phones, nice iPhones that the VA paid like a year. It was free. So that was a huge help too, because then we were able to get in contact with them, and then they were able to get their medical care and everything. So, but I will say that's one way we try to outreach the people who don't have the phones, is to, contact our community providers of where they may be.
I will say a recent thing we're sort of trying on our end. We found that a lot of folks that come in who were unhoused prior to entry maybe had a cell phone but didn't have service. So they may find themselves at a Starbucks, a McDonald's somewhere with some free Wi-Fi, and they're able to call during that time using whatever app or text. So we're working on like using Google Voice or a platform like that to where we can maybe text back to somebody, and then they get it when they get it. They reply when it's convenient for them, and we can at least make that attempt to keep that communication going in a way that may work for them, where maybe traditional phone or email isn't working for that individual. So I don't have data to say this is working or not yet, but that's kind of something we're throwing at the wall and hope it sticks a little bit.
Allie asked, are there resources out there to help with that anymore? So if the VA was doing it during COVID, are there any organizations that have cell phones? I know didn't BSC at some point have a cell phone program?
We had, it was through the VA.
Okay.
Through the VA.
Okay.
But I also wanted to say when we're talking about outreach, BSC does have the outreach program, Open Path, and also with our program as well. Just having an outreach contact, that when you lose someone, just to check and say, hey, last time I spoke to this person, they were in this place. Do you have an outreach team out in that area, just to see if they could connect with that person? Because a lot of times, even if you give them a phone, if they're just living in the woods somewhere, that phone could easily be stolen or misplaced or whatever. So that's not necessarily a guarantee to keep in touch with them per se. So just having contact with someone on an outreach team would be a good idea to kind of find these people.
Hey, Brooke, this is Ellecia. I'm about to hop off to go to an outreach meeting with my team. Before I jump off, thank you for the opportunity. Kristen and I will make sure that we are at this table. It was great meeting everybody. I put my number and email in here. The last thing I would say is a shameless plug for case conferencing. I know Carla Jackson knows about this well. I encourage all of you providers, have someone at our case conferencing. That is the best way to get the word out about where our veterans are. I kind of have an internal thing within my team where I say, who do we need to put an APB out for? Who needs to be on our radar? So we send out a mass message. We have internal ways where we say, hey, when you guys see John Doe, this is the plan. So if we as a community can work to putting an APB out or having those type of who needs to be on our radar type conversations, because an example of that is we had a veteran coming to sit in our lobby every day. He's MIA. We reached out to Acorns to say, hey, if you see him, call me. They called me on my cell phone yesterday. They encountered him. So I would love for that to come to fruition. But if you guys need help navigating VA system, here's my contact, and Kristen will probably share hers when you guys wrap up.
Thank you. Ellecia, is case conferencing done by the specific counties?
Yeah. It is.
Okay.
It is.
The continuums of care. Yeah.
And our coordinated entry specialist, she is touching all of our counties. And as you guys know, our veterans migrate. They're in Orange one day, they're in Durham the next day, 2 weeks later. Literally, this happened. They're in New Bern. So we're trying to, catch up with them. But that communication goes a long ways.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate all the information.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Do you guys want to take a quick little break, maybe 3 to 5 minutes, and then we'll pick up with our second panel discussion. It's the transitional model, program design and exit strategy. Thank you guys. Take 5.
Yeah, we had met.
Again, so. That is the plan. We have.
Out there. You know that? You need a veteran who is home, you got to do it, you know, the best that you can.
Yep, yeah.
There was a wheel that was already built and working on.
Yeah, I'm taking off. I want to give you my card. So it was very nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Yes, I really appreciate it. It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
Let me show the bullet points of what you're thinking.
Yeah.
And we'll talk to you about that.
Absolutely. He's
I'll
funny.
run that by.
Like I said, see you, I was short.
Exactly.
Don't want to get up.
Well, we want to pick your brains too.
You are northern way. Pretty much all northern Raleigh. Try, Greenville, Washington, come to us, all of us. Everything, so many together is always awesome. Passion. So that's our, it's sort of.
My tech program should be specialized.
And that's the Vietnam style veterans for the ones that don't have. And I know a lot of them. You're not allowed to deal with them as the veterans that you. Are we on? No, you know exactly.
Started again, everybody.
Get them out and talk and see.
Look forward to chatting. Absolutely.
Thanks to everyone who stuck around for the second part. I appreciate it.
We open day by day.
Yes, Jill, Jill, can you hear me? That is correct.
That's a big part. Just a little bit of stuff.
Thanks, everyone. So where I'd like to go from here, I know each of your panelists has spoken about their organization and that sort of thing. But I wanted to dive a little more into the design of the program and, you know, what kind of specific services do you help with? And then we'll end it with what does a successful exit look like in your program? So, Trevor, I know you've mentioned some of the services that y'all offer, but if you could just go into a little more detail and kind of the time frame that people stay with you all, I would just love to know a little more of that kind of information.
Sure. Real quick, can you hear me okay? I'm sorry, I had to reset my computer. Okay, cool. Thank you. So we are a long program. We're a 2-year residential treatment facility for folks struggling with drug and alcohol addiction, which is in itself an oversimplification. I think, you know, our how somebody ends up at TROSA is life becomes unmanageable. And without getting too much into my own kind of background, I'm a graduate of the TROSA program. I came into the TROSA program myself after, we'll call it a decade of homelessness and severe drug and alcohol addiction, criminal justice system. So I know firsthand what it's like to come into the program, to complete it, and to move on, with my life. And I would say I wouldn't work for them today if I didn't think it could help folks that were like me. It is not an easy program. Somebody really has to be ready for something different. And what that means is behavior change. So a lot of clients that come to us have maybe tried short-term detox. Maybe they've tried inpatient or outpatient treatment before for either behavioral health or substance use, and it hasn't stuck, or maybe they haven't been able to maintain for very long once they leave treatment. So it really is almost an extended reentry model. If anyone's familiar with kind of that kind of standard practice. So someone comes into our program, they don't have to bring anything with them. They don't need any money. We don't bill insurance, anything like that. It's totally free to the client. And they come in and all of their housing, food, medical care, everything's covered for them. TROSA used to be a bit more of what I would call a work-based program. And I would say, again, in the last decade, we've really moved away from that model to really focus more on the clinical side of things, so behavioral health services. So we have one-on-one counseling on site, we have group counseling. And then our veterans who come through, if we can get them service connected, have that opportunity to kind of have a dual treatment. So while they're in our program, maybe they're spending time at TROSA, learning job skills. Maybe they want to get a CDL license. Maybe they want to learn to work in, admin. They want to learn how to work on computers, whatever it might be. While they're there, maybe they meet with a one-on-one counselor at TROSA, but they're heading over to the VA for a group counseling class of some sort, or maybe we get an iPad for something remote through the VA, or they need one-on-one services there. So we can kind of have that open door back and forth with the VA for the client. And a lot of that is really just building trust again. So most folks that have gone through treatment, gone through the criminal justice system before, might have services offered to them, but there's such a big trust barrier in place that the client doesn't feel comfortable saying, yes, I want your help. So if we can now try and build some trust again around services that are available to folks, we can now move into those next steps. So on the backside of our program, I'll skip ahead a little bit. Our clients have that opportunity for a year of transitional housing at low cost. It's anywhere from, we'll say, $150 to $240 a month. That covers utilities, everything in our housing. We can provide transportation to and from work for that client. Everything that happens in the middle is time-based. So for the first 6 months, someone comes into our program, it is a lot of kind of group engagement. So helping folks maybe get out of their shell a little bit, learn to have that kind of peer support, like true peer support of their peers in the program. Once they get about 6 months under their belt, then we can get into some higher level skill training, whatever the client wants. Early on, we might assign them to, we have a kitchen. We have 390 clients in Durham currently. We have to feed all those folks, right? So maybe they're in our kitchen, they're over at our thrift store in Durham doing more of a group-based thing. And around 6 months, they have that option to say, well, what is it I want to learn while I'm here as far as job skills go? And we can do everything from accounting to, again, CDL license if they want to do something a bit more hands-on. We'll send folks back to school starting at a year. So there's a whole mix of things in the middle folks are working on. As staff, I'd say 70% or so of our staff have lived experience in one way or another. And our goal is just to help our clients look at themselves, their life and recovery a little bit differently. I would say getting folks clean, quote unquote, is the easy part. Helping folks understand why they maybe turn to drugs and alcohol to self-medicate is a harder problem. And then you also get into things like behavior. You have years of learned habits, and how do you unlearn those habits or learn new habits? Our goal is to have somebody, leave our program confident that they can take care of themselves and anything life throws at them. It's not always easy. Some folks, it takes a little bit longer than others. Sorry, I'm trying to fit a lot into a short answer. I think you asked earlier, what does success look like? for a client that leaves our program. I think it's somebody who chooses to remain involved with us without being asked to. And that's usually a really good sign for us of how somebody's doing. Our graduates can come by our campus and eat breakfast, lunch, dinner indefinitely. We have folks who come around who graduated TROSA 20 years ago, who stop by when they're in town just for a quick bite. We have folks who come for breakfast every day. Those folks that keep coming around and stay connected with that program, it becomes their AA or their version of NA to stay involved in the community. And especially with a lot of our veterans, again, I work pretty closely with Kristen and Darr, and I can think of 10 to 15 in the last few years that are regularly involved, looking for veterans who are completing our program. Where are they at? Are they looking for work? How's their housing going? Maybe I can put in a word for them. Maybe I can make a call. What do they need help understanding? Whatever process they might be going through on the back end. Those are all really good indicators for us that are people doing well. From a statistics standpoint, we like to brag. 98% of clients that complete the TROSA program are still self-reported free of drug and alcohol a year after completing the program, are still employed a year after completing our program. And that's great. And it's not to sound negative, but I don't like self-reporting. One of the biggest indicators to me that people are doing well is no new criminal convictions within a year of completing our program. And that's raw data I can pull from the state. And that ends up being around 97% as of the last fiscal year of clients that complete our program have no new criminal convictions. So a really good sign there. For our veterans that are going through the TROSA program, I think we're unique that, yes, we're a GPD site, but having GPD is kind of irrelevant to how we serve our veterans. We're able to create kind of a small community amongst the veterans in the program where, again, they're rebuilding that trust in the VA and what they have to offer, as well as working with those VSOs that I spoke about earlier on discharge status upgrades. We have counselors on staff who are veterans themselves. We have programmatic staff who are veterans, so they can kind of, again, I'll use the word trust again and accept the help that's being offered to them. I hope that kind of breaks it down a little bit, but I'm open to questions that folks might have.
Yeah. Do you work with like expungement services and just like legal aid and stuff to help them with that too?
Yeah, we have a yearly expungement clinic. It's through Duke Law School and legal aid team up every year and come out. I think it's twice a year, actually, as of the last couple of years. So they'll come out and do a large expungement clinic. We'll work with our clients to get that started. Or for folks who maybe didn't access that while they were in the program, we can still help them with that on the backside and help them with filing, what that process looks like, and what help they might need there. And that, ultimately that becomes one of the bigger barriers we talked about earlier on the back end. It is very unfortunate when we see a client spend 2 years with us, really come out strong. I've got confidence in myself. I've got the life skills I feel like I need. I've got the job training. I'm very employable. They've got full-time employment. They've been working that whole year there in our transitional housing. For all intents and purposes, they're a model citizen, right? Tax-paying citizen, what every employer wants. And then the moment they leave our transitional housing and they go to get their own place, all those old things start popping back up. The felonies that maybe couldn't get expunged, renter history, all those things start popping up for them again. So that is still a large barrier, no matter what work our client has put in to kind of move forward with their lives.
Thank you. And Cynthia, how about for you with USA Veterans Health? What are some of the more specific programs and stuff that or any services that you guys provide in-house?
Okay. As I said, we have 12 veterans, 3 to each house. The housing, they don't have to pay for anything while they're here. This is an opportunity for them to save money so that they can go into permanent housing. They don't have to pay for the housing. They don't have to pay for their meals. They get 3 meals a day. We provide them with the laundry detergent, toiletries, sheets, towels, all of that stuff we provide them with. So once we bring them into our program, the first thing we do is we meet with them and do the PCP plan. And from there, I use that to help them to develop their housing plan, which is really, really important. And we work on a budget as well. So when we do our budget, we try to have a realistic budget, one to follow while you're here. We can't make them do it, but I show it to them in 3 ways. The budget for here, a budget if they're going to be getting some assistance like from DOA or HUD-VASH, and a budget if you get no assistance at all, so they can realistically see what kind of income they need to have in their household. And a lot of times when we're doing the PCPs, they'll tell me the goals that they want to work on. A lot of them will say something like, I want to increase my income. So then I have to find out, what do they want to do to increase the income? Is it through employment, or are they going to try to get some more benefits? And if that's the case, we refer them to, like I said, veteran services or anyone that can help them get their income increased. Sometimes they'll say they want to work, but they haven't worked in a while. So I may refer them to like a step up ministry. I've had some seniors, which we do get a lot of seniors, like 68 older, wanting to go back to work. So what I'll do then is try to get them linked up with a senior aid program, and it works out very well, because then they're able to work about 20 hours a week, and they'll look at the person's health and determine where to place that person in a job. So we try to link them up with those type of resources. We make sure that they're getting their medical care. We try to keep up with their appointments at the VA to make sure that they're going to them, and any other medical appointments that they need to go to. We also require them to look for housing up to 3 places a week. We'll start out, they can start online, then eventually they have to physically start going out to look for housing. And I'll work with them on how to conduct the housing search that talks about the questions they need to ask, what they need to be looking for when they go out and do a housing search. And sometimes if I run into a veteran that really is struggling, I'll give him some leads. A lot of times if I give them a lead, sometimes I already know that the person will rent to them, but I want them to go out and use the skills that we've taught them, how to look for housing. But I've already talked to the person. They know he's coming, but I want them to use the skills. So we work with them on those things as well. And what do we consider a successful exit is when a person moves into an affordable unit, something we know that they can afford. And if they're able to maintain housing, we consider that being successful. We like to see them grow in the housing. Like if we put them in a house or apartment, we like to see them where they can grow into something better. Sometimes I have to put someone into a shared housing unit. But if they do really well in that shared housing unit, if that landlord has apartments, they'll let them move into an apartment. So I encourage them to do really good when they're renting out a place so that they can move up the ladder. And also the same thing, we like to see them when their income changes, that they notify us, whether it's through disability or whether they've got jobs. Like I said, we try to help them with that job part. And we want to know that their health is better. It's really great when we find out that they're going to the doctor, their health has improved, that they're no longer in active addiction. Those are some things that we consider a successful person. And we love it when they do come back to visit us. Sometimes they'll come back and we'll ask them to come to our mandatory Tuesday meeting, and they'll be able to talk with the residents about their experience here and how their life is now. Because nobody's happy to be in a transitional housing place. You're not happy. But you learn how to tolerate it and learn how to get along, with others and, things like that. But we'll let them talk about it. It may have been a little rough here at the beginning, but it's all worth it in the end. And I always tell our veterans that they will determine how long they're going to be at USA Veterans. We say 90 days. We've had some people to be up here 6 months or longer, but they will determine how long they want to be here by the work they do. They turn in their housing search logs to me weekly. I sit down and I go over it with them weekly. And if I look at it and it's incomplete, we'll sit here and get them to complete it while they're meeting with me. Sometimes I even call the landlords while they're sitting here that they have on their logs, just to see what the landlord may have. Or sometimes they'll put up that word online, and I'm like, no, I need you to talk to somebody. And I actually have them to call people while they're sitting here with me and make sure they're asking the right questions and all. But that's about what we're looking for with our program and what we consider a success.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Mm-hmm.
Kristen, do you want to fill in a little bit? I mean, you made the reference that you're kind of the middlewoman between the veteran and the providers, the service providers. What does that look like for you? Like, what is that on a daily basis?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, basically, with the coordination with the transitional housing, specifically over the GPD sites, I am out there. The frequency depends on the site. With TROSA, I am out there monthly. I actually go out there on Thursday this week. That works with their schedule just because they do have them, working and they have other obligations that they have to do. And so I am out there monthly. Obviously, if as needed, me and Trevor, like he said a few times, we work very closely together. We're working on the back end with a lot of stuff with the veterans. So basically, my role is I will come in and I'm doing a majority of the case management. So I meet with the veterans individually. I will help them. It's a lot with the housing stuff. So depending what they need to be linked to. So I get them linked more to like the VA side of things. So HUD FASH, anything like even SSVF. I will say our community partners, like Miss Harris, they do the SSVF referrals too. So it's kind of we're working together. It's a partnership. If I'm like, hey, this veteran, he needs to apply for food stamps, but I'm not available to do it. If I give you the website on how to do it, can you help him? And then I'll follow up with the food stamp. So it's a big partnership. Just getting the veterans, like I mentioned, that treatment plan. All the veterans, whether they're in a contract site, which is what USA Veterans Help is, a grant site, which is what TROSA is, there is some type of treatment plan in place, goals that they're working towards other than housing. So we're all kind of working together. As far as the VA, kind of some other services that we offer, I think a lot of times people just think, oh, homeless programs, HUD VASH. That's the star child. Everybody knows who HUD VASH is. But there are a lot of other entities within our program. So I kind of want to highlight those. So we do have 2 occupational therapists on our team. We also have a nurse practitioner. We have a nurse. We have an employment specialist, and we have a housing specialist and peer support. So all of those people, although they mainly serve HUD VASH, they can also serve the GPD veterans, the people that are in transitional housing. So a lot of times we will pull from them and we'll start those referrals early, like while they're just in transitional housing before they even get to permanent housing. We'll have them already working on that employment so they increase their income. Getting them linked with an occupational therapist if we know, we're going to move them into a permanent unit and they're going to need some revisions like around their shower or their toilet or just safety within the unit. They can come in and kind of look at that. That way it's set up for when the veteran moves in. So we do have those other services within our team.
So thank you. And Kristen, for you and the veterans you're serving, what does the exit look like? Is it once they're housed? I mean, do you maintain contact once they're in permanent housing? How does that work?
Yeah, so depending how they got permanently housed, I would say. So yes, once with the GPD, once they get housed, yes, they do technically get discharged from the GPD program. Does that mean that I'm just going to cut them off? No, I literally, when we were in this meeting, had someone call me that is in GPD years ago. So I will need to call him back. So no, they don't get cut off. But what would happen, let's say they got permanently housed with HUD-VASH. They would then go to the HUD-VASH case manager, and that would be the primary social work contact. But of course, if I needed to come in and coordinate, that is kind of how it would work. If they got housed like on their own, like let's say they did it with SSVF, Volunteers of America, and they fell into some kind of financial like trouble once they moved in, they do reach back out to me. So I'm kind of the point of contact at the VA, and then I would get them relinked to wherever they needed to.
Oh, thank you. Does the group have any questions for our panelists based on these conversations, these questions?
I have a quick question for Kristen.
Yeah.
So just for clarity, so the main housing programs within the VA, is it GPD with the transitional housing, the HUD-VASH voucher, and SSVF? Or are there any other programs through the VA for housing support?
Yeah, so actually SSVF isn't us, that's Volunteers of America. We refer to them, but that's not us. So yes, HUD-VASH, and then Grant Per Diem is the transitional housing, and we also have contract. I could go into a spiel. It's just a difference in payer source and requirements between the grant and the contracts. So I think you heard me say earlier, USA Veterans Help is a contract, and TROSA is a grant. It's a different payer source and different requirements. And then we do have other positions, but as far as like housing, yes, those are the two main ones. We do have a veteran justice outreach. We have two gentlemen that help. They go into the jails and the prisons. We also have an outreach team. I mentioned them earlier that go into the shelters and into the streets, linking veterans, but they're doing more of the work, not really housing programs. So yes, to answer your question, HUD-VASH and GPD and contract.
Okay, and I have a quick question for Trevor. Do you know how many veterans are in your program right now, or how many veterans typically come through your program? Are you all?
Yeah.
Okay.
As of today, I think we have, double checking.
I'm pretty sure we have 9.
9 that are GPD. I have 23 total veterans, or folks that would identify as a veteran at TROSA. So that's a mix of folks who maybe don't quote unquote qualify for connected services with the VA, but are veterans. It may be folks that have, there's a timeline on the grant too. So we have folks who stay with us beyond that 2-year mark for whatever reason. They're welcome to stay longer. So they would essentially like time out of that and open that bed back up for somebody else.
And the veterans that aren't necessarily qualified, it's usually due to discharge status. They are still allowed to come to my group, still meet with me, and whatever I can get them linked to. Obviously, healthcare is a barrier because of their discharge status, but we still do help them. One of the things we especially like to try to do is the veteran service officer from Durham County, Jonathan Crooms. He comes every time I come out, and just trying to get them service connected, because if we can at least get them 10%, then they do become eligible for healthcare, which then opens up a whole new window of stuff. So me and Trevor have had some great success with that, from them being, ineligible to them getting full services, which has been wonderful.
And for that veteran who does get connected, just to expand on that, if that's okay, it's so our clients, while they're in our program, they're not working a full-time job, making income until around 21 months in our program. So if somebody gets connected and starts getting some sort of pay or back pay from the VA, we set them up a personal bank account that is their account. To be completely honest, we just don't want to mess with somebody else's money. That way, if somebody chooses to leave, they have it. But I think from the plus side of it, so we can get somebody connected early on, go ahead and get those bank accounts set up, and they're with us for 2 years. They have 2 years of a nest egg building on top of the year of transition and money when they start having that employment come in, or somebody may be sending money home to family, child support, whatever somebody has going on. They can kind of handle those things while trying to get treatment. And then kind of a part 2 and please stop me if I got ahead of ourselves a little bit on questioning, but these are successful exits. There are unsuccessful exits. For us, it's a 2-year program. Somebody may be there 6 months, a year, and say, "Hey, I think I'm good to go." And having that relationship with Kristen and the VA, we can say, "Great, where are you going back to?" "Oh, I'm going back to Virginia Beach." "Awesome. Well, don't go today. Let's give it a couple days. Now we can go ahead and connect you with the VA center in Norfolk, and we can go ahead and get some services in place before we discharge you from our program, so that when you make it back to VA, you already have primary care set up and can go, all those things are in place prior to being discharged from a program. Of course, that's in a perfect world, but it's nice to have that option available for folks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Troy had a question.
Just on like a programmatic level, I realize that most folks are set up for target populations. For the work that you all do and have been talking about, is there any room for expansion? For example, if it's the spouse of a veteran, or it's a child of a veteran, or it's the grandchild. I know there's some leeway with different agencies and different programs where they can say what your great grandfather served. Yes, we're gonna do our best to help you with that, to honor that connection. And then some folks that you don't have the funding and things like that, or you don't have the mandate. But I just wanted to ask that for you all.
So I would say right now, no, as far as like the spouse is getting a benefit. I will with HUD VASH, yes. So with a HUD VASH voucher, the whole family unit can be on that voucher and they can be in that place. But for GPD, it's only for the veteran unless, because the grant is open, someone has applies for the grant and says, "Hey, we want this to be for veterans and their families." I will say there comes a complexity with that because, for example, Ms. Harris mentioned earlier that they only serve males, and the reason for that is because there are 4 houses with 3 bedrooms, right? We're not going to mix males and females in the same house. And so when children get involved or women get involved, like it has to be a certain setup just for safety. Not saying that we couldn't do it. If someone had an ultimate setup where they had a bunch of like people are doing these pallet homes or these like small homes on like a bunch of property, and like let's say they had 10 of them and they wanted to put family units in 10, that would be great. I would please apply if you have it, because we would award it. But yeah, I would say it has to be just set up perfectly for everyone's kind of safety. So it's not that we can't do it. It's just no one has proposed that. They don't have the transitional housing for that. Whereas with HUD VASH, yes, the whole family unit can be, you can put anyone on the voucher, although we don't recommend that. You could put a friend on, but we highly discourage that because that can lead to some drama. So, yep.
Okay.
Yes.
So with our organization, we like to do, well, we're primarily a preventative and as is happening kind of organization. So what are the preventative services? I know most of these organizations, they don't know until you know, right? So what are the preventative services that you could offer to veterans that could help them prevent to get in these situations?
Good question.
Most of the time with us, it's just, hey, I'm a little bit better with finances. I can teach you about budgeting. But what are professional type services?
Yeah. So when you mean by that, just clarification on the question, like basically they're about to kind of get evicted and be homeless, and like what kind of preventative services are in place is what you're asking? Or are you asking like even before that, like just to educate them and teach them to be able, gotcha. So I will say for I can speak on my program, like my grant per diem program. When we are setting people up for discharge, obviously that's going to be a change in dynamic, right? They're used to being in transitional housing where they're not paying rent. So going from being in a place and feeling secure and not paying, and then going to somewhere where you have to pay rent, you have to pay utilities, you all these new things, right? I will say budgeting is a big thing that I will work on with the veterans. I'm actually about to start this Thursday with the TROSA veterans. There was a training here at the VA. It's called FinVet. It stands for like financial vet. It's a whole course on working with the veterans on just everything financial related. And so since they're in that program for so long, I can kind of go through that whole course with them. So that is something I'm starting to implement. So we definitely do budgeting. I believe over at USA Veterans Health, Ms. Harris, you can kind of speak. You guys do that too, correct?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna add to that too.
Yeah.
I think a good one would be to do teaching them how to communicate with the landlords, how to advocate for themselves, and how to do it the right way, where you don't come in there so angry or whatever, but knowing how to advocate, how to talk to the landlords is really, really important. Not only that, how to talk to your caseworkers is really, really important. So that's something I work with them on as well.
Yes, I definitely agree, especially because eventually the social worker won't be there. Even with HUD-VASH, you get to a point where we call it HUD-VASH graduation, where you maintain the voucher, but the case manager kind of goes away. It's like a yearly contact, you're self-sustaining, so you're not going to have that social worker for every little need. So yes, learning that, the communication skills, how to advocate, how to speak up, and then if you need to pull us back in, we're there. But yeah, definitely, I agree with Ms. Harris on that.
And you know what? Nothing makes you feel any better than I had a client that come to me. They had got behind in their rent, and they wanted me to get them some help, and I was going to get them some help too. I called the landlord and I told the landlord that I was looking for some money to help pay this client's rent off. Do you know what the landlord told me? When I told him I needed an eviction letter, a letter stating they were late and behind on their rent, he said, "I'm not doing that." He said, I'm not going to do that. Because he said, "This client has enhanced my property." He said, rather than write up an eviction letter or something like that, he said, "I'll just do the best I can. I am not going to file no papers. I'm not going to write up any eviction letter." And the person stayed in housing. They worked it out among themselves. So that goes, and I talk with my clients about enhancing the property, making it where your landlord wants you to stay there. That really felt good.
Really good. Yeah, that's good.
Yes.
Hi, this is Isabella, Operation Art. I feel like this might be a good point to kind of ask this question at this moment because to me, Operation Art is a lot of social enrichment. And so I know that that is not a priority for someone who's maybe in an immediate crisis. But towards as they're getting perhaps more stable in housing or things like that, like I wonder if you all as caseworkers are perhaps like recommending resources that are more like bringing veterans together, like perhaps like as Joel Fund and other folks in this room do, or for like we offer virtual classes or we offer deploy, we go to different locations around the triangle. So I'm just thinking of like perhaps if you are already doing that, is there a list that we could like be added to, or if you're not already doing that, and you're interested, I'd be happy to talk more about that.
Yeah, honestly, the more resources that we can bring into the transitional housing, we would love it, honestly. I don't know if you saw, I had put in the chat earlier with TROSA, we've been doing some outings. So the veterans recently just did equine therapy.
Nice.
That was very well received. I loved it too. It was fun. And so, yeah, we would love to get them into more stuff like that. Honestly, over at USA Veterans Help too, we would just need to basically schedule a time that works like for the program schedule, and we would make sure that the veterans are there. We do that often. We used to have SUD groups that were set up. we've had different employment people come out, NC Works, a whole bunch of different people. So if you're interested, please.
I'd love to connect offline about that, because I feel like once folks are getting into a more stable place, like perhaps a community, like the field trip, or we come out and do an art project, just another thing in their toolbox.
Yeah, connection is important.
Yeah, I would like to have that info too. I think, for our clients, while they're at our program, we're a modified therapeutic community. So while they're there for 2 years, it's extremely community based and right. But then somebody completes the program, they go into transitional housing, and although it's great that they want to stay connected and we encourage that, how do you build a network of people outside? And you build what is your new network? What is your new family, whether that's 2 people or 20? And I often don't have places to point them towards. So the more the merrier, for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I would love to connect too. You guys have heard me kind of throw out the grant cycle is here, and our new contract cycle will be coming also this year. So I would love to get connected for all the new grantees and contract, whoever that may be, so we can get you guys in all of those places. I might use you guys too much, and you're going to be like, "Dang, I didn't mean to do that." So
I haven't felt that with any organization yet. I feel like that connection has been great so far.
Great.
Awesome. So I'm going to ask one more question before we wrap this meeting up. So what is the one thing that we can do as a group today to ensure that the information shared by the VA, TROSA, and USA Veterans Health actually reaches the veterans who need it most? This is a quiz grade.
What's the one thing that we can do?
Connected.
Yeah, what is the one thing as a group?
So
that
this
we can
question is at towards us.
for everyone.
Okay.
Collaborate, and stay connected, because even with talking about financial literacy and all that, like the veterans that we encounter who come to us requesting assistance for whatever, they may not ask for financial literacy, but they got in that situation somehow. And so even being able to provide a resource, if they don't, even if they're not asking for it, we say, well, we have this, if you want to use it, it's available to you, is just valuable for that veteran or service member or family member. So just being able to collaborate and work together so that we can make sure that our veterans are getting the assistance that they need, so that it can prevent them from getting in that situation again and needing assistance again. That's what I would say.
And to add on to what she just said about collaboration, having a platform, we were talking earlier about the veterans that will fall through the crack. We lose track of them. They are like nomads moving from here to there. Having a system that we could keep in contact with each other as to whether we've had hands-on or I had a conversation with that veteran. And I know we use, and I think BBH does too, use the Unitas platform
for referrals.
For referrals, also for notes as well.
Yeah.
You can go in and find that veteran in the system and just write some notes. I saw this help to this veteran in Carrack County 2 days ago, and he is his current telephone number, just that type of communication with the different organizations.
And share resources. If I have something, not gatekeep it, share with that other organization, who may be helping that veteran.
Right.
So that's collaboration to me is key in this work.
Yeah. Jill, do you want to add something?
I didn't get off mute. I agree with a lot of what's been said as far as sharing the information. I do it on a more one-on-one basis with either veterans and their families coming out, or the occasional group sessions we may have, like Morning with the Mustangs or Vets to Vets United family picnic. But it's definitely sharing the information. And then for the women veteran group I belong to, I just might type up something in our next newsletter and say, hey guys, I don't know if you're aware of this, but I was in a really good call at the Joel Fund, and here's a bunch of groups out that are really helping veterans. You may not need this service, but hold on to this because you may encounter somebody that will.
Yes, for sure.
That's my 2 cents, guys. It was worth it.
Thank you. Selwyn?
Well, when you're talking about financial literacy, I am a coordinator at a church here in Raleigh, North Haven Church, and I do Financial Peace University. But I also can work to design what is necessary for the individuals that are in place. I'm a teacher by trade, so my thing is making sure that we can get to them and help them with their finances early as they're going through your transition so that when they finish, they have funds that they can go out and be self-sustaining. And so I would love to, talk further with you about how we can perhaps do things. I've been quiet because I just wanted to hear everyone.
And we will share everyone's information through a follow-up email. And so for people who want to connect outside of this call, then you have that opportunity too.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. And then one more, Troy.
So I was just gonna ask, I know it has kind of taken a reserved backseat and they're slowly starting to kick it back up again, but does anybody know if the governor's working group is going to kick back into a more of a full regulation of what it used to be? And just thinking of attaching
Like a month to month.
attaching our groups to, our collective groups to a larger wheel like that. I know they want to get back towards what they used to be doing with a month to month, but they're fine tuning everything and trying to organize it and do it in the best possible way. And hopefully do it even better than in the past years, but just a thought, if any of you run into something to do with or a person that is sitting on the board of, like, please feel free to mention it to the rest of us, just to say, hey, don't miss out. They're gonna be meeting at the National Guard headquarters like we used to, or.
I know they hired a coordinator to get things, things like online per se. Recently, Crystal Miller, so she's working to get things up online.
Yeah. There's one coming in the next few months, right?
March.
Okay.
Here, it'll be in the triangle.
So I remember they had gone to quarterly from monthly.
Yeah.
For a
I think
while,
it's
they
still
were
quarterly.
traveling across the state,
Yeah.
give everybody good odds to make at least one per year.
Yeah, I think that's.
So I think that's a great opportunity for all of us.
Anybody can join the governor's working group.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if you serve veterans and want, there's like different, like focus areas, and they have different like subgroups, working groups. You can request each one.
And I can't tell you how many random connections of walking through that room before, during, and after have enabled me to help out with constituent services of folks coming into us. And so, what county were you in? There's a little known group over here, and I just happened to meet the director or the outreach representative or whoever it was, but I would have never met that person without the governor's working group coming together. So just a thought of collaboration to help get all of our words out and, help each other as we go.
Look at that word, collaboration came up again.
I stole it from you, I'm sorry.
Important word.
Well, I appreciate everyone's time and participation in this very, very educational conversation. Thank you so much. And our next VMFA meeting will be February 10th. Landry, what is our topic? I just put you on the spot. Sorry.
Education.
Education, so veterans education, so it's a broad topic, but that'll be our next topic, so. We look forward to having everyone join us again next month, and until then, see you soon, stay warm. Thank you, everybody.
Share that information with y'all.
Thank you.
You want to give that information?
Well, I got Paul and.
Oh, yeah, you got the team.
I think everybody's got Paul.
Yeah, I'm sure.